So again, thank you so much, guys, for joining. Pleasure to have you all. I think this is a very, very interesting session, and we have been all been waiting for it. In fact, just because of this session, we had a pre-session as well, which was taxonomies and ontologies. Everybody being asking for GenAI, GenAI, GenAI here and there. Then people keep hearing, what is GenAI? What is ChatGPT? What is LLM, what is transformer model. So all these confusions being there. So we decided our traditional folks, which are Ahmed, Mark, Marek, Daniel, John, we all decided, okay, let's jump into it and understand what it is. So just for everyone, what I'm going to do is 60 minutes something which we will be targeting. And what we will be doing in 60 minutes, we'll be going through our agenda, which I'll just go through a few questions for business and technical. So this is our panelist. We all know our panelists. I think other than Ahmed, everybody introduced themselves in last session. So Ahmed, floor is all yours. Yeah.
Thank you, Mustafa, and thanks to our participants. So Ahmed Fessi, I'm an engineer. I got my degree around 15 years ago and have been working in the telecommunication, manufacturing, and fintech industries. I'm currently serving as Chief Transformation and Information Officer at a software editor, software as a service editor, Medius. We manage expenses, accounts payable, and financial solutions for CFOs. And I am the author of the Data Integration Guide, which is a book that I published a couple of years ago. And I have a couple of courses on Udemy on data and on AI.
Awesome. Thank you, Ahmed. So GenAI is something we all love to talk about right nowadays. So if I go to my next slide, so these are the questions which I have prepared for my panelists. We'll be going through these questionnaires with our panelists, like what is the perception of GenAI from the business? Is it worth to implement GenAI? And what is the right ROI break-even year or time, which will give us the opportunity to go into GenAI use case? What compliance and regulatory bodies talk about LLM outcome? Because in LLM, everything goes into one place. How privacy can be tackled? What are the GenAI use cases currently in progress, right, in the world, and how management trust data coming out of GenAI? So that we'll be discussing. Then, is it worth implementing structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data within GenAI? We all are working on unstructured data, but nowadays there are a lot of requirements where people are expecting to get structured data inside LLM. How it works, we will discuss on that one. And then last but not the
How are you? Good to see you.
okay,
Nice
last but
talk.
not the least is a prompt engineering, the challenge of hallucination. Okay. Then as I mentioned, let me quickly, so normally whenever I do presentations here and there, normally what I do, I skim through the whole deck so people have an idea of what's coming. So I'll just quickly take this opportunity to go through. So these are technical questions. We'll go through what are the most common confusions around this GenAI, ChatGPT, OpenAI, LLM, transformer model. All those things will be in the slides. How it goes like this. What is GenAI? As I mentioned, what are the use cases? What is actually GenAI? How LLM? What is LLM? What LLM frameworks are available in the market right now? And then next level of LLM, how actually inside LLM works. We go through this slide later on. Okay, someone joined as well. Thanks for joining. Then how GenAI and RAG architecture work together. Then what is the importance of NLP, NER, NLU, NLG in the world of GenAI? Then a further how actually breakdown of NER, NLU, NLG all works behind the scene of LLM, and how we can map NLP along with the transformer model. Now coming back to this slide, where we have all these questions, which I will take the opportunity because I won't talk a lot because I'm a moderator on this session. So I will jump onto different panelists and I will give floor to them. So I think we can raise our hand here as well. If you guys want to raise your hand, you guys can raise your hand and we can discuss on this topic, right? So I will now stop sharing my screen. Okay, now all participants are here. Okay. Yep. So who to give? I would love to throw challenges. I know Popini is here and he has a time limitation. Hi, Popini, how are you?
We all have time limitation.
Yes. So I think it will be a good start to give it to Popini.
Okay. Thank you. What an honor to open the floor. So hello, everyone. He calls me Pupini, but my real name is Francesco. Pupini is my surname. I've met Mustafa a long time ago during COVID, 2020, 21, I guess. I'm a friend of Marek. So Marek is a very good friend from old time. I lived in Prague. I am in Prague right now at a conference. Sorry for the noise and a big event. And so why Mustafa is giving the word to me? Well, I have always worked in the data environment, and he says I'm an inventor because I invented a special data model. I wrote a book about it. It's called the Unified Star Schema. So it's a way of organizing data that is allowing to do more than you would normally do with a Kimball approach. That's a bit about myself. So when it comes to Gen AI and LLMs, honestly, I am one of the millions of people who are just getting started on the topic. I don't know much about it. So I can only give an impression about what I believe that can be a risk about what we are doing now. The risk is that today there is too much hope on Gen AI for all the things that humans didn't manage to do. And suddenly we all say, oh, Gen AI will save the world and Elon Musk will save the world. We tend to have these superheroes who are like solving the problems that we were never able to solve. So my just pill of wisdom, just to get started, is let's be careful. Artificial intelligence is learning from humans. If humans don't have a clear set of instruction and material and enough data that artificial intelligence can learn from, it is a bit naive to think that suddenly Gen AI will solve our problems. I am very much into the space of business intelligence and SQL and data warehousing. And the domain, the particular part of GenAI that I'm interested in is the creation of a SQL by chatting. And I've seen that it works only when data is super easy, but data is not always super easy. So long story short, we need to be sure that we feed LLMs with enough context for the LLM to be able to do those things that humans are doing today, the join of tables and all the work that analytic engineers do. Feed it with enough context, pass all the metadata. All the conferences that I'm hearing are just talking about passing the structure of the database. That's just step one. I would say there is at least step 2 and step 3 and more. So let's give it more context and let's not be naive. Let's treat Gen AI like a colleague that we have to teach to. That's my feel of wisdom.
No, that's a perfect start actually. The whole idea of this session was, and you're absolutely right actually. This is the whole confusion, and that is where this session came into being, right? That people think Gen AI can fix everything. Gen AI, well, if you say Gen AI, yes, it's supposed to do all those things. When we talk about LLM and Chat GPT, LLM, that is where people think LLM can solve your problem. But LLM is more over on a text and it cannot give you accurate answers. And actually, which the clear example is ChatGPT. You open a ChatGPT, it's a multi-billion-dollar solution. It says it can make mistakes. So which can easily tell us that yes, R&D is still there, but still we haven't reached that level where Ahmed can go and take a multi-million-dollar decision based on the LLM. But so I will come towards Ahmed because he's C-level actually. A pleasure to have you here. So my next target is Ahmed Fasi.
Yeah.
So coming towards you, Ahmed, right? This is the obvious challenge and obvious question, right? And most of the you are an exception for me because you have come up from the technical background. But most of the C-level which I hear, their expectation is, well, C-level and -1 and -2 as well. They are just throwing the data in LLM. I'm a solution architect, right? They say, Mustafa, you are taking our unstructured data. We are getting some results. Take our structured data as well and give us accurate results, which is a question mark, right? That is where, for me, I have to really go into detail level and tell them how actually transformer model works. I should not be doing that, right? So Ahmed, floor is all yours. How you see businesses are coming towards you and how you tackle them. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Francesco, and quite aligned with what you shared, and thanks, Mostafa, for giving me the opportunity to share this. So first things first, putting the right expectation with business is a very important step when addressing GenAI topics because the hype is there, multiple use cases are visible or are coming in the news or in the blogs and so on. But in the reality, we should not forget that we have already a set of tools that work very well. Like if my SQL is working well, if querying my database is working well, if my database is working well, if my data integration tool is working well, if my no-code and automations are working well, GenAI is not the answer to all. I'm not going to replace everything and going to have GenAI everywhere. And one more point is that we should not be looking for problems. Like we have a solution, we should not be just looking for a problem to have it solved by GenAI. If we have real pain points that classic algorithms and classic solutions are not in ability to address or not to address efficiently, or we cannot identify some algorithm that is deterministic that will solve it, GenAI can help, can be an additional tool in a set of multiple tools that we have. In the question here that is asked, can GenAI provide data or information? I think it might be a very bad idea to ask GenAI for knowledge. It is very bad at giving knowledge. And as mentioned by Francesco regarding the information, so GenAI ate millions and millions of data on the web. So all Wikipedia is 3% of the training data set of ChatGPT. So you can imagine the amount of data that ChatGPT got. And that actually will reproduce everything that is on the internet, the good part, but also the less good part. So I think we can rely on GenAI on some specific topics, some specific use cases that we can work with the business. We should set the right expectation. What I have seen as well in the implementation of GenAI use cases is that very quickly you reach 80, 90%, but having that 10%, that last mile of 10% might be extremely complex because you have specific cases, you have some nuances, you have things that rely more on a critical thinking, and that GenAI is not yet at a level to be able to be the answer to this.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. I think you have touched the main pain area as well, the data information. Yeah, you're right. We have data information, knowledge, and wisdom, right? For me, correct me if I'm wrong, if people are getting more accurate results, I'll be happy to discuss. For me, ChatGPT still is giving you a data or maybe a refined data. It is still not an information. It's still, as you correctly mentioned, it's still not a knowledge. It is still not something which can really make you, okay, hey, let's not run a SQL query and take a result from it and take a decision. So yeah, thanks, Ahmed, on this one. So as we are going towards SQL side, right, Marek, my next target is you. So
before we go to Marek, can I interject with the question? I'm directing it both to Ahmed and Francesco. To your customers or business, what are 2 use cases where you would highly recommend them using generative AI or large language models for?
Yeah. I have one good use case on a chatbot. So this is something that we have productionized actually. So we have, for example, implemented a chatbot that works 24/7 and that gives the possibility to our customers to deploy it with their suppliers so that suppliers can ask questions related to their invoices. We are in the financial area. We manage accounts payable. So basically you have suppliers sending their invoices to customers. And at some point, the supplier needs to know where that invoice is it paid or not, when it is going to be paid, is it blocked for something? And that takes a lot of time to our back office, finance back office, actually to answer the customers. And one easy thing to do with GenAI and one strength in GenAI is that it can be answering in all languages. You can have it in English, in Spanish, in French. There is no limitation when it comes to English. Like ChatGPT can cover 100 languages with good NLP. But then we needed to constrain the model. From the moment that you are getting questions that are out of context, you need to protect your model so it does not process that actually. We have seen some cases of a car dealer in the US that they have deployed a chatbot for their customers, and people were asking that chatbot as if it was ChatGPT because it relayed at ChatGPT. So people were no longer asking about the cars. They were basically using the computing power of their chat that is exposed to everyone. And then there was the case of Air Canada. So there was a passenger that was in a situation requesting a refund, and the policy of Air Canada didn't allow that refund. And the chatbot based on GenAI gave that information that you can get refunded. And there was a lawsuit, and Air Canada was obliged to refund that passenger because the chatbot gave that. So we also put some constraint to say this chatbot is not taking any decision. It is just checking some information and giving it back to you in NLP friendly model, in a language, humanly understandable language. This kind of use case is a simple use case, but it is quite practical, helps save time, but it addresses a very specific pain point and is not the answer to all.
And it's not making any decisions. It is just relaying information that it's been trained on.
Exactly. With all the security measures that we need to take, that we are not sending any confidential data to it, we are not sending any personal data to it. So there are also multiple things. I heard Mustafa say that sometimes business might be tempted by sending some information. Did we check if that information is confidential? Maybe it is some confidential business data that I should not be sharing just on a ChatGPT. So there are also all that compliance and security stuff that we need to have in mind when addressing these use cases.
Yeah, Francisco, you got something?
I add something very brief. I believe, there are many use cases. If I had to pick a couple of them, I would say two that I consider honestly amazing. One is the creation of images, like total from nothing. Let's say I want to see a house with a lake and a dinosaur, and poof, the image is there. That's amazing. Second one is the summarizing of text. That I can't imagine how, I have no idea how that works. And that's amazing. You feed it with a book and it gives you the summary of the book. That's crazy. And actually, I would like to leave this short intervention with a question. What do you guys think? How is it possible that two tasks that are so difficult are performed by GenAI so easily? And a stupid query, select from customers, query, sales, products, which is structured, should be super easy. It still doesn't work. So if someone can later answer, that would be amazing.
Actually, you brought the right thing. There is a reason, and try my best to explain why structured data doesn't work here and unstructured work. There is a reason behind it. And in a nutshell, it is all about our Daniel's metadata and taxonomies and ontologies, and it is relationships. Those relationships are die important for structured data work. And we all know that once you convert structured data into a text, it does not bring relationship along with it. That's why structured data doesn't work. Daniel, I've already taken your name, so you are my next target. Floor is all yours. Questions are on your screen. You want to pick it up, anyone? But we are still on number one, where we are saying, what is the perception of GenAI in business? And is the data still data or information? Yeah.
Thank you for that introduction. Yes, I can continue on point number one because it's still important. One topic that was addressed last time around was the topic of data literacy. Data literacy in reading and writing data for humans. And that is a key element when it comes to GenAI and the large language models. Because if you do not understand the mechanisms behind, as Ahmed and Francesco were hinting at, the usage of the tool that you have might be sort of, you might end up in the wrong direction. You see it being able to summarize a text, and then you think, if it can do this advanced thing, it should be able to do this simple thing as well. But simple and complex for a human is not the same as simple and complex for a computer. And that is a very important topic to address and a very important thing to keep in mind. Any type of generative AI is not to be trusted if you're going to use it by business, unless you put in the measures and the safeguard that Ahmed was just talking about. In the most cases, those are not in place yet. The rules of how to interact with it, the safeguards, the metadata, the context, the ontologies, and the taxonomies, these are not in place. And if you don't have these things in place, then you cannot utilize GenAI for advanced tasks. Yeah, so that's my sort of
That's
cents
perfect.
on that topic.
That's perfect, actually. That's perfect. That is where we are giving so much importance to metadata. As I always say, right, now the next era is not about data, it's more about towards metadata. You have to mature your metadata, then you can talk to your data. Because your data is so huge, you won't have enough processing, enough time response to talk to your data. You have to talk to the metadata, actually. And Daniel, metadata as well, right? So we won't go into that one. We will have a separate session on that one. So we lost Marek in the middle. So Marek, I'll bring you back onto the floor where I will throw this structured data in LLM. So I won't ask you to tell us how structure can work because we all know it can't work. What I will ask you is how in BI tool you are working with these kind of things and a chart, as you mentioned in other group as well. Can you please put some light on it?
Yeah, thank you very much. No problem with skipping me because the discussion is really, really interesting. So I love to only hear and listen.
No, because why I want to come to you is BI tool is everywhere. Wherever you have a data, you have a BI tool. Now the question is, can BI tool, because every BI tool is coming with a chart, right? Now, how chat that work? BI create dashboard and report, right? Some of the guys came to me, hey, our BI tool can work, have a chat, and this chat will interact with dashboard and it will give you accurate results. I said, okay, can you tell me how? So he came to know what they were doing. They were picking up the report into the memory. The moment you bring it into the memory, it generates auto metadata. When it generates auto metadata, they talk to the one report metadata and generate results. I said, okay, can I change the sentiments of the query? Cannot. Okay, I won't take a lot of time. Marek?
No, it's definitely the way you explain that. But I would like to go before explaining what's happening at the moment in the BI tools with all these ChatGPT and LLM models. I would like to go back to the history because this is how it happened. That why AI or ChatGPT or any generative AI cannot clearly explain or give the results in simple code, like a select all from where, exactly what Francesco was asking. Probably the reason is from the legacy modeling. I can remember 10 years ago, where many of the marketing companies were building ChatGPTs according to some models that were at the moment available, and when Facebook created TensorFlow and something more on the textual and contextual level. And that's the problematic part. where all these AI and GPT models, where OpenAI started as well, on the background of these models, were just text parsing. And there was no metadata behind, like going to the structural data. What they started and what the most important part where that related was the like a contextual model of the text. So they created the models to read the text and guessing what could be the next possible word or the sentence before and after. So they could guess what the people, how they feel, what the sentiment of the group is, what is the sentiment of the thread in the chat, in the Facebook or somewhere like that. And all that hype from 2014, also Microsoft started to do the same, and all these models are coming there, and they forgot that they could also do the same on the structural data, but from the different point. How they approach the structural data exactly the same way. So they just simply read the what was there available on the Stack Overflow or in Data Camp, wherever the sentences were created in the code, and they read the same and trained as a structural data, as an unstructured data, and that's the problem. It will never be working. So even me, I was testing in the I don't want to say the tool, but the SQL tool and the SQL level, and they said, okay, we have our own ChatGPT, and I put there what was working, their SQL put there, and their ChatGPT told me this is not our SQL accent. So it was really funny for me because I had already the procedures and everything there on the daily basis, and I went check that, like, okay, so is it correct or could be optimized? And he told me it doesn't work with our tool, and it was working. So that's the problem. What I see, that it's still time to come when OpenAI, whatever the different models, will be approaching differently SQL-based and structured data, exactly from the level of the granularity and from the meta and metadata modeling. And it's not happening. And when that starts, and it will be created, all the associations and conversations and the causalities, then the models will be also available for the BI tools. Because now what's happening, and I'm coming to your question, it's happening that all BI tools have their own ChatGPT and Copilot and everything, but it's
not okay.
I would say it's infantry level. It's like kindergarten. Yeah. So there is something happening. You see that, okay, there is a causalities or there is some correlations, but it reminds me when we put in 2008, 16 years ago, in Excel, and we put the phrases like your revenue is, and then we put if it's +1 growing, and if it's -1 is declining by, and then we put that, the select from the database, and we automated this kind of summaries for the reports, and people were like, wow, you had some AI behind that. And we said, no, that's nothing like if else, and when you create this, it's fine. What is happening now, this if else is just multiplying, so it's multiplied by millions time faster, and for the unstructured text is very good trained. So it's very good trained for the very good perspective of doing exactly what Francesco says, the summaries. We are using that for article summaries as well, for the ideas and for the different type of the already known and very good described on the internet topics. So it's fine. But when you need to go behind the scenes, so you need something underlying, which data always have something like that. What is the clause? There is something that is accept, that is include, and so on and so on. And that's much more problematic. But I haven't seen that, but I heard that OpenAI is hiring a lot of data engineers at the moment, and they should be creating all this association modeling to Python first, and then SQL. So let's see next year if it's coming to better results.
Yeah,
you bring up a very interesting point, Marek, that the OpenAI LLM is trained on text. It is not trained on data. It is not trained on decisions. So you actually get the output of what you're trained on. I would not expect myself to be the fastest man in the world if I'm only training weightlifting. So what you train is what you get. And if you only train it on text and language, how would you expect it to make decisions or to do those things? So very interesting point, Marek. Thank you.
And just to add, just two quick points to that. I think the trend we are seeing is a trend towards having more specialized LLM, because we have seen that generalist LLM can be little good at many things, but never very good at something actually. And specialization is key on that regard. And what we have seen is that Mistral, for example, that have released Le Chat, which is a main open source AI, has now released Codestral, which is their tool for code generation. And the same thing like Copilot, you have the Copilot for Microsoft, and then for GitHub, you have the Copilot for GitHub that is dedicated to code generation. And the same thing with Llama, the same things with multiple other LLMs is that for specifically code generation, now they are creating new dedicated LLM for code generation, which also in the interim poses a lot of questions related to the IP topic, because writing code is sort of IP, and they are trained on huge segments of code. Some of it are open source. Is all of it open source? Is all of it non-viral open source? That will be also questions that we will need to ask at some point.
Yeah, thank you, Ahmed and Marek. Right, Marek, there's you gave this example, right, about how they read text in the SQL, right? I can't resist myself to put this funny story what happened with me, right? What happened is this: I won't take the name of the vendor. If you would not be recording like 6 months back, I would have named it. But now, what happened? They came to me and they took a PDF from business. The PDF had this tabular data. They converted it and they run a query and average was coming. So business says, hey, average is coming. Mustafa, I have 200 tables, throw those 200 tables and give me result. I said, what the hell? How do I know? How do I don't know? I went in, I opened their code. I said, show me what happened in their tabular. They converted that into some kind of HTML, this and that. And in the column, the average word was there. Okay. And end of the description of the row, the average word was there. Now it was asking, can you give me the average of this? And this was written as a row indicator. So that row was showing along with the average. I said, wow, can you kindly do the same query and say couple of rows? Of course, it not going to work. So I'm just trying to highlight is when these folks go through business, they show very customized queries and they show it's working. It doesn't work like this. There are a lot of folks here who are from this. Okay, now bringing Mark into this discussion. Mark, I know you are bored, but I will pull you in. Yeah, Mark, your perspective on GenAI, because you are also attached with this business side. Please, floor is all yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, my disclaimer is, I come with skepticism. Just because I see what it can do with language. I understand how it works with tokenizing things. So it's not actually thinking, it's not actually analyzing, it's not really analyzing language, it's analyzing tokens and how they occur with other tokens. So, and I think, Marek, I think you were talking about that earlier. So while, it works with general language, it's not really going to work, I don't think, with structured data. However, I'm a skeptic, but I look at my clients and I think, okay, well, how are they coming in? And I see a lot of skepticism there as well. From the data side, I'm seeing the CDOs are kind of touting that before we can really use GenAI in anything, we need to have, first of all, data literacy, we need to have data quality, and we need to have data governance. My question back to them is, well, yeah, but you can't get data literacy until you have business literacy, because the business people are being wowed by this. to some extent and saying, well, okay, how can we utilize this? The vendors are coming with some very smart stories that are not necessarily, it's like another technical run where we're going to invest heaps of money.
The story inside the code, actually. They build the story inside the code and then you show it.
Yeah, exactly. And I read a very interesting paper. It was a very long paper that Marco Woban posted. And in essence, it was showing how the analysis of quite a number of GenAI tools were unable to process some general logic. And the general logic was, they called it the Alice in Wonderland thing. So Alice has N number of sisters and she has B number of brothers. So how many sisters does one of her brothers have? And the answer, of course, is N plus 1. It's N plus Alice. But the GenAI tools could not necessarily answer the question. And if they could, their response behind that of how they derived to that question, how they deduced the answer was confused, not really logical, but to a layperson could appear to be quite valid. So hence, my skepticism. I don't know if I'm answering the question you've asked of me, Mustafa.
No, it's okay. You are on top of it.
What the other thing that's coming to me quite often, which I'm asking when we did our book launch, one of the questions was, what do you want to know about next? AI came second. AI was something that did crop up, but it came second to ethics. And I think this is the important thing, is we need to really get to grips with ethics before we can get to grips with tools that potentially circumvent our ethics and our governance.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marek. Mark and Marek is I always confuse. Next, I will pull in. You know who I'm going to pull in.
Marek's the handsome one.
No way.
Okay, next, we all know who I'm going to pull in. The guy who is in the same pain area which I am, Joan. So coming towards you, right? These pipelines, I will come towards pipelines, right? We all ETL folks, engineering folks, mostly process data and get this thing in. Same thing happened when LLM comes in, we know how to process unstructured, blah, 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 blah. Now this structure comes, right? Business doesn't know how to process data. Business just knows that we have been giving these people structured data. They have been working on it for last 2, 3, 4 decades. Now suddenly unstructured data comes in and they are able to process it. Story finished. Now give them structure again and ask them to throw into the LLM and let it start working. So your experiences on this one.
Look, thanks, Mustafa. The thing here is, I would like just to stay here with the popcorns and continue listening to all you guys, because it's been super interesting. So thanks for all the insights. Indeed, when Francesco started, he was like, okay, I can just go off and it is done. But anyway, here is my piece. Despite of all the concerns that you are raising here, which I agree with them all, I would like to see the good thing of this technology, actually, and I will come to answer your question as well, Mustafa. But the thing is that it has awakened a lot of users, and there are a lot of gaps that accompany not only this technology but the whole life of giving the customers what they would like to have, and all the technical depth. In somehow it's been like, hey, yeah, you know now what is GenAI. You have discovered there's something like that can be useful for you, but unless you help me with taxonomies, ontologies, metadata, all those things that nobody wants to do and that suddenly are learning about, all data literacy and business literacy, and they are coming together, that's starting to close the gap, which is, in my opinion, a very good thing, and is giving the opportunity that maybe not solve the problem or what they were expecting, that is, hey, give me something that use GenAI that solve all my problems. Okay, wait for it. I will come to that, but first do this and help me to close the gap. And that's been super good, because only talking to a customer, to a user, internal or external, that he understands that there are structured and unstructured data. That's, I mean, that's a wow. It's like, hey, really, do you understand what I'm talking about right now? That's great. And that sets a flow in the conversation that helps you improve, and you gain the confidence with the users. And that's what would eventually lever or give you the lever to get access to something different out of the GenAI, in my opinion. Okay, because of course I'm right now with a mandate from C-level. Hey, give me the low-hanging fruit and do it quickly and show it to me how it works, because I have seen somewhere that someone has shown me that is super cool, or I have basically OpenAI in my in my mobile, and I use it as a Wikipedia. But no, listen, this is different, okay? And we can try to do something different, because as well, Databricks puts his AI BI tool out in the market, and someone again, it's always the same, and deal with that is being super complicated. But coming back to your question, and I think that stating this was important, right? Coming back to your question. Yes, the structured data and the pipelines are going to be there and need to be addressed, but this is being super cool how the data engineers are taking advantage of it. Meaning that all the techie guys are reaching a level with these models that are helping them boosting their performance, and that's again a great outcome to our business models and to our day-to-day operative. So in that sense, I'm only seeing the positive stuff, but all the hallucination, oh my God, be careful. The responsible AI, the literacy to the people is a basic that is not being addressed everywhere. And the problem that I'm facing is that I cannot catch up with all the things, all the regulatory memberships that are in there, all the limitation that we are having is being tricky. I don't know if you guys are expecting the same, but it's been a hurdle to surpass and to get on top of it. I don't know, you guys are spacing. I'm seeing Ahmed nodding, and I guess that you're in the same position.
A quick comment on that, and yeah, quite aligned on multiple points. Just wanted to add to it. I think it's important when we object a given use case, and yeah, vendors will come and will do some fancy demo, and we will be challenged on doing XYZ. I think it's important to explain why this works and explain what is possible to do. I think that putting the right expectation in the communication is something that is key and that should be done early on. And also explaining the prerequisites. If we need to reach that level of accuracy, that means that data quality upfront, else it is garbage in, garbage out. And you have plenty examples. You have plenty of examples to say. Like there is the this Tay from Microsoft, Tay chatbot from Microsoft that was published on Twitter. People started chatting with it, and at some point it turned into some Nazi guy, someone who was insulting people. That's a true story. Look, you can review it. I think it was 2016 or 2017. And that is garbage in, garbage out. You are going to reproduce any issue you are having in your training data set. And that if you rely on some generalist LLM in the market, you are not getting something that is enough fine-tuned in your context. And fine-tuning something in your context takes time, takes money, and takes a lot of work. So it's important, I think, to set that level of expectation upfront, explaining what is doable, what is not, and if we need to go there, what is the path? Like it is a path, it's not just one click. And if you just need something that is comparable to what the demo did, yeah, it's great. I mean, we can do it. It's like Photoshop when we were selling websites at some point of time. You come with a Photoshop, some fancy photos on a Photoshop, and this is your website. But yes, you need to build it up afterwards.
Cannot agree more. Just a couple of points more here is that I believe that not data quality, but the quality of the data is super important. But the scaffolding on there is going to be the ontologies and the taxonomy. So that's going to be a basic that, at least in my organization, we are lacking as of today. So that's one point. And the other is how to democratize it, because the hype is super good. It's gonna give in some resources to put on and try to develop something that is valid for business, and we cannot skip that. I mean, we cannot miss that. So the balancing between how to democratize, deal with the bittersweet flavor of this, because to me it's being more bitter than sweet, is super important. And in there is when the prompting comes in as well, because then that closes as well a gap important with the users. I know it's the seventh question, but I want to put already in the table that this is a basic.
I don't want to monopolize. Can I add two more points to that, Mustafa? But I mean, cut me, guys, of course. I think there is a path of AI enablement that should happen in your organizations, meaning that everyone in the company should be trained on AI, and should be trained on AI on 2-3 simple things. The first is to understand how GenAI works. And Mark, I fully aligned with the way you define it. It's simple. Like, you have a series of tokens, you are predicting the next token, and this is how it works. So don't expect like magic inference to happen. It is, at the end of the day, you have tokens, you are predicting the next token, and that's it. And it works that way in the GenAI. So important to understand in simple words how it works, how you prompt in basic stuff like the basic prompting techniques to say you will act as, and you put a role, you are doing this task, and be as detailed as possible when explaining the task, and then explaining what is the format that you need in output. If you need just some text summary, or maybe you need some JSON, or maybe you need some XML, or maybe you need some tabular. So you need to explain all of that in your prompting and explain how you prompt. And then if you have some internal tool in place like Copilot, explain 3-4 use cases on how to use, for example, Microsoft's Copilot, and then explain how to do a responsible use. Don't share personal information. Don't share customer data. If you are asking the question, is it confidential or not? Probably it is. Don't share it. And this is how you do. Anonymize a little bit. Ensure you are doing a responsible use. And if you have any questions, you have 1-2 referent or experts internally that can help you. And I think that path is quite important to do in every organization, because we are facing something new and it's evolving at a high speed, and you don't want that user internally that with good intent will be building something on a tool that was not approved, sending confidential data there, and maybe violating 3, 4, 5 policies just with good intent, and just because they saw some demo or interesting thing from a vendor.
Actually, I wanted to thanks Ahmed, and thanks John to bringing this up, right? Actually, I wanted to go to question 3 and 4. Actually, we have question 4, no need. 5, 6, we have already gone through. So actually 2 and 3 is still there, and 7th and 8th, which we are discussing right now. As you have brought it up, right, this is very important how prompt engineering works. So I will again target my front end guy, Marek. Right? So Marek, this prompting, right, in Power BI, when they come up with this kind of GenAI or LLM thingy at front end, because we all know, right, as Ahmed mentioned, that we need to train everyone to do prompt engineering. And prompt engineering is something you tell LLM or ChatGPT or GPT to do it, right? Which is equal to, for me, like in a BI tool. You remember that long time back we had this report builder, form builder, then we had Cognos, all those kind of business intelligence tools where reporting was technical people need to be there, right, to develop your dashboard. Then this Power BI, Tableau tools came in, which is drag and drop. Now what we are saying is, from drag and drop, we are saying just chat it and you will get it, right? But that's not going to happen. You can chat it, but you have to prompt engineer as well. So my question to you is, Marek, drag and drop is easy or prompt engineering is easy? That will define which kind of training user can take, right?
There was previously in the tools that there was already some copilots, or there was some already pre-prompt. I would say wizards, these wizards, and it was built in the tools. So if you can remember the small guys in Word in 1999, I think it was like you started something and you could click on that. So that was just a simpler version of what happened in the BI tools. So there was already 5 years ago, you could write, show me top sales in my region, and it could generate the chart directly. There was the tool built in. What was behind that? Of course, somebody had to prepare all typical questions. What does it mean, sales, region? What does it mean, my sales? That it's connected to some AD, Active Directory, or the local users. What does it mean, a chart? It's a bubble chart. It's a line chart. It's a something. So it was really hard work behind that. So it was left behind afterwards because they found out that preparing all these possibilities, it's so cost inefficient that even people would spend rather than next 5 minutes to creating the chart and to do the prompt. Similar, it's happening now with the ChatGPT or these copilots. People are testing it, and it's not happening directly that it could bring you the direct outcome. So it has to be trained, and this prompt needs to be guided somehow. This is called the trusted layer of BI. I'm not sure how the others are keeping that together, but definitely there are some companies that are trying to lock down these layers for the developers only, and they could bring the prompt. What we tested, funny thing was we tested with 2 BI tools in one as a prompt. So we created the prompt, and we were trying to find the measure, the metric. There was a GraphQL behind that, so it's pretty easy there because that the database is pretty hardcore, brutally meta-coded. So we just selected over the whole servers, over the 1,000 reports, no matter in which database there was. If there was in some report the metric called something like that, so we could just select all that, and we created the prompt. So people could chat with the chatbot, looking the same like OpenAI. So can you give me the metric and in which reports there are? So we brought these 5 different select from this GraphQL, and that happened that it brought all these reports. So it's there. And when you bring the front end, of course you can do it, but somebody has to create the database behind it. And it's a metadata, it's again the ontology and taxonomy, it's still the same topic. So you can't avoid this. Even the importance of the prompt engineers is coming back to the data, metadata, and metadata modeling, and still the same circle. So I don't think that prompt engineering will kill this typical chatbotting. There will be some click on, because we already have the questions from the customers. Can you bring us the one click, and it will generate the everything that we need, because there will be a sales for the last year, and it will create 3 charts and tables, and that will be distributed for the people. Of course, it's possible, but it's still heavy work there. It's not automatically done, and that prompt engineering will be coming. I think I wrote some small article about how the BI tools will look like in 2030. There will be just one prompt line, and there will be a logo of a BI tool, and there will be, okay, so what's this, what's that, and there will be a chat or a chart, but it will be still the same like the Google. When the Google started in 1995 or 1996, there was a lot of tools, search engines and everything like that, and they were really busy. And then when we seen what Google brought, that simplicity, just with one line, and brought everything just straight in the moment. I think when the BI tools will not look like that, it will die. They all will die, because that's what people will be expecting. There will be really hardcore coding behind that, all these engineering with the prompt and this LLM modeling with correct causality, correlations, association models, but definitely will bring just the answer for the question, and that will be the prompt, just one simple prompt, with the logos and with the summaries, and people will consume on the mobile phones. But definitely behind that will be maybe 10 more people than now in the BI tool, and will be just fixing all the models to be ready for that.
Before I jump on to question number 2, which is definitely I'll come to Ahmed. But question number 3 is also very important. Where regulatory bodies and compliances and all those things are looking toward accepting data which is coming from this point of view, right? So maybe I'll pull in Daniel on it, because Daniel has been working on metadata. And metadata is not something which normally regulatory bodies and this and that looks into it, but there must be something we did look into it, right? Now this unstructured data, LLM data, which has no head and tail, if I say that, how because doing a lineage, finding out the lineage from end to end within an LLM, I'm not sure how it's being done. But Daniel, how do you see that regulatory bodies and compliance looking into these things?
Thank you. And I'm going back to what I said before on Marek's comment, that unless the model has been explicitly trained on data, it will be really hard to explain lineage and which metadata it uses, which definitions has been used, what is the meaning of revenue, what is the definition of weight, what is these definitions is what creates trust in your data. And if you don't have trust, of course, a regulatory body cannot utilize whatever result comes in. So I mean, there are steps ahead. You have the RAG models that are coming in now to ensure that you have trusted sources and trusted data. But those needs to be created. That there's a legwork to be done, and I think that's kind of a summary of what everyone have said here, that there's no magic. GenAI is not magic. It is a very logical thing. And if you as a business cannot provide that logic and explain how you reason, how you do things, how you analyze things, what context your data has, then it cannot be used for those purposes. So that's my very simple. There's the legwork to be done. You cannot avoid it.
But Daniel, a question comes on top of it, right? See, we have been struggling, right? We have been struggling that asking our developers or DBAs to define a column, define primary keys, foreign keys. We all know that nowadays we only have logical primary key, foreign key. We don't even enable it, don't even define it, right? These are all very important metadata, right? Business metadata is the next level. Even technical metadata, people are not following it. Now we are going towards this LLM where without metadata, it won't even work, right? In structure, we could tag it, right? When you're doing a query, we can still join it, right? In LLM and these, you cannot. So how do you see people will behave towards, we won't go into details because we have a dedicated session on this one, but how do you see that this metadata people will start taking seriousness to define it? Okay, John, okay, before you answer, John never raised his hand. John has raised his hand. John. You've raised, oh, you don't know.
No. I raised it on purpose. My point here is that I believe it could be useful for everyone. I've been using GenAI for those definitions, meaning that when you have the country column and you say definition, you say country. No. I would encourage you to use GenAI to give you a good definition of that, and you would be surprised because it has this size and it helps lots afterwards. So that's my piece.
You are absolutely right, because within GenAI or LLM, they have poured in all basic metadata, which is very generic. How those talk to each other, like these relationships, that is very challenging. Daniel.
Yes, absolutely. But based on my experience, writing the definition, it can be a simple thing, but onboard the organization to it, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
And we cannot approach these things from a technical perspective. We need to address this from an organizational perspective and from a change management perspective. And I'm coming back to the literacy part. I know you had a variant of that, Mark, but I'm approaching it from a literacy perspective. We need to, as an organization, train on, work on, talk about these things, because that is where the change happens. I can write the definition of what a country is. And Juan, you can write your definition. It doesn't mean that we are talking the same language until we've actually sat down, talked about it, used it in a project, in a report, or what it might be. So for me, the human aspect, we cannot exclude the human aspect of anything that we talk about, because it's humans that's going to generate this. It is humans who's going to work with this. And we need to, as a group, train on these things if we want it to work.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. So actually, this main question, which is question number 2, actually, this is one of the core questions for me towards going towards GenAI, because we have a break-even point for every project, wherever we implement, wherever we invest. You have to have an ROI, right? Last time, Ahmed, maybe you can jump in as well, because you look not only software, you don't only look data, you also look infrastructure and other components as well, which will define the whole TCO of a solution, right? Last time we were saying, okay, the TCO of a solution is 8 years. Then it came towards 5 years. Nowadays, ROI is calculated based on 3 years. That your ROI has to go at a break even at 3 years. But what I feel is, because these technologies are moving so fast and they're expensive actually. Their processing is expensive. And after 3 to 6 months, let's give it a, being very pessimistic, let's say after 1 year, although it's changing after three months or 6 months, let's say it will change after 1 year. So do we need to look into these solutions from this perspective, that if business cannot generate or do a break even within a year, should we rethink about going into that direction, Amit?
Yeah, very good, very good point. Can I comment quickly on the previous parts, or you want me to get?
Please.
Okay.
Science is also important.
So you mentioned quite important point. You mentioned that we are starting to use GenAI, we are injecting data there, but we don't have idea about the data lineage and about how that works. That's a true issue, and that explicability of AI is a true challenge that will not be solved, I think, in the next few months. It acts as a black box, and that is something that we need to have in mind each time it is acting as a black box. And when you are working with 1 trillion of parameters, like with GPT-4, you can't reasonably understand why it gave that word and not that word, and explicability won't fly when you are working with LLMs. There is, however, one small correction to that. When you are prompting, you can use a prompting technique called the chain of thought. The chain of thought is to add a sentence in your prompt and saying, explain your reasoning or do it step by step. That won't give you the lineage, but it will give you a framework where you can follow if that inference is correct or not. It is still a black box because generating that is coming from a black box, but still it is some middle space where you can start having something. One also interesting point that Juan mentioned, saying that it will not give you the metadata, but it can help you do a definition. And that's, I think, a key point when working with GenAI, is that you need to use it as a tool that will help you brainstorm, that will help you get ideas, that will help you challenge what you are finding, but it will not take a decision at your place. And everything it generates, you need to check for accuracy. You need to proofread it. You need to ensure that it is something that is accurate before you are using it, especially if it is in some critical process that you mentioned. One of the questions is the regulatory part to it, how this is being addressed. So it is important to note that there are 2 parts of it. If you are building an AI or if you are using an AI. If you are building an AI, you might be subject to certain regulation like the EU AI Act, where you have a classification of the risks. There are some use cases that are high risk and that are prohibited, like facial recognition. Then there are things with high risk, but you still, with important risk, but you still need to do an assessment to say if this is an ethical use and acceptable use of AI and so on. So there are these multiple levels of risks that you need to put your use case there. If it is an acceptable risk, you cannot do it. If it is a high risk, you can do it, but you should do a conformity assessment, and there is something to do with the regulatory framework and so on. So that is if you are building AI. If you are using AI in the context of something that is legal or something that is related to compliance, well, there has been use cases where there was this lawyer who built their documentation and their speech in a court using AI, and it has been convicted and sued related to that, because you are not allowed to. AI should not remove our capacity to be the decision maker, and if we do it, we are delegating that to an AI that should not be trusted. And then coming then to answer your question related to the ROI and investment part, I think regardless of the investment term and the ROI, if it is 3, 5, 10 years, there is a question that some businesses should ask themselves: are we being disrupted by generative AI? And how it is impacting my business today? If I am Stack Overflow, for example, and you have seen that Stack Overflow have laid off a certain number of engineers and a certain number of staff because of GenAI taking part of somehow the business of Stack Overflow. So it is important to be in a situation to understand to what extent my business is being disrupted with GenAI. If it is the case, it is important for you to invest to understand, am I doing a pivot? Am I changing a strategic decision there? Then if your business is not disrupted, but impacted in some shape or form, it is important to understand the use cases where you need to invest in GenAI and not be behind competition related to that. And that part for me is not related to an ROI calculation. It is more related to sound business strategy where I need to allocate part of my budget to the trial and error, maybe to trial and trash, but this is a new tech. It might impact my business. I need to understand how it works. I need to invest in learning. I need to invest to some tests so that I can understand how it can benefit to my business and how it is transforming my industry. Then if I am a support function, like an IT function or a data function that is common to the whole organization, and I'm delivering use cases, then indeed an ROI equation is important. But more importantly, I should have a more global framework to address all the use cases I have. I have a use case to build a dashboard. I have a use case to build a data integration. And then I have a use case to build a chatbot. It is one use case among others, and I need to understand the value of each, understand the technical complexity of each, and based on that say, okay, this is I'm taking first, this is I'm taking second, this is I'm taking third. I don't think that adding a new platform or adding a new technology changes, at least in this case, changes radically the way we assess our internal use cases. It is still ROI driven and needs to follow the internal framework that other use cases follow.
So Ahmed, I can add one question here, right? What I see is categorization in a way, projects which can bring your OPEX down, projects which can generate revenue for you. That's the high level, these two categories, right? When business coming to me, what I have analyzed that if the project is related to OPEX, to reduce OPEX, end of the day, I believe these categories are not good enough to go towards a GenAI solution. Yes, if you're generating a revenue, then it might be a good idea to go towards GenAI. What do you think?
I will make the equation even more complex. I got a case where a use case costed 15K to build, okay? But if you don't build it, it is related to some regulation and you might be subject to a fine of 2 million.
Yeah.
So what do you do first? You do cost avoidance first,
Yeah.
or you do bringing OPEX down, or you do bringing revenues. I think I don't have an answer, a simple answer to that. I think it is a discussion with the business and prioritization. In terms of compliance, it is important that if you are subject to a law, you need to comply with it and put the investment there, no questions asked, and put it as a priority to deliver. If it brings OPEX down, it depends what kind of OPEX. Is it headcount? Is it a solution that you are paying? What is the renewal cycle of that? If it is OPEX related to headcount, are you laying off people or they are just doing something else in that time or changing jobs? So depending on that use case, and it will create a sense of urgency or priority to take it or not. And in terms of revenue generation, sometimes it's very easy to say this will generate revenue. But to what extent the go-to-market strategy is ready? Is it really something, if I build it today, you are going to sell it tomorrow? Do you have the sales material for that? Do you have the marketing team that is ready to do it? So it is a plan to build. And for me, it is more an exercise to prioritize building different plans and enter in execution mode once everyone on the table is aligned. So I don't have a simple answer to it, but that's how I would approach it.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we are already on top of the 60 minutes. It's already on top of 18 minutes. I think we should wind this thing up. So thank you everyone for joining this session. It was pleasure to have it from this angle, from panel side. It was awesome. Again, great information shared. So Ahmad, I think creating a deck won't work in a panel discussion. That's what my learning is. I think we should stick with the questions, right?
I think the question part is quite interesting, but yeah, it's equally important. I think for some of the participants as well to get some technical exposure and some more understanding on stuff. So yeah, we need to strike the right balance there.
Yeah. So thanks everyone again. All the participants. I think it's already 70 or 80 minutes we are on. So I will take a break as well. And although rest of the people have talked more than me, but I'll take a, if you guys see I'm online, you guys can jump on it. I'll go through the whole deck, what LLM is, what GenAI is, what is LLM frameworks available, how this whole rack thing works. I will try to summarize, and end of the day, I will record this whole thing. Now so thank you again. Pleasure to having all of you. Bye bye.
Perfect.